So we're going to look at fraction addition and why we need the same denominator, and we'll look at it a little differently. We'll look at it in terms of the discrete method, which is very convenient at times. So what is the discrete method? The discrete method is to basically first, think of what that a fraction in itself doesn't mean anything. So you can have half and you can say, well, there's a joke that you have a person goes and orders half a vegetable of half pumpkin and half grape, and so he gets his dish, and most of it, everything is pumpkin. He just sees pumpkin, pieces of pumpkin. He says, where's my grape? So I'm sure if you search for it, sir, you will see half of a grape somewhere, because this represents half of a pumpkin. So you had a pumpkin, half. So this is what is there here, and half of a grape will be there somewhere. So you can't obviously add half of two things that are very different. So what the discrete method is that it says half is 1 out of every 2. So I'm going to use this. Okay, that means out of every 2 pieces, so I have 2 pieces, right? 1 out of every 2 pieces. So like this. This represents half, which means if I had 4 pieces, the next 2 pieces, 1 out of every 2 pieces. 1 out of every 2 pieces. So visually also the discrete method is quite useful at times, especially for fractions that are proper. Improper fractions, it gets a little trickier to create a whole, and then but in proper fractions, discrete method has its advantages. So discrete method says 1 out of every 2, right? So you say, okay, you don't want to add half a pumpkin with something else, so half a grape or something. So you always ask the question, what is the fraction of, right? Half of what? So as long as the total quantity is the same, I can do addition, otherwise I can't do addition. Simple as that, yeah? So half of what? So if I say, okay, half of 6, then I say, okay, half of 6 is 3 out of 6. That's half of 6. Fine, acceptable. That's half of 6. Now you say, let's say I have 1/3. Okay, so I have 1/3 of what? If I want to add 2 quantities, they have to be the fractions of the same number. Only then I can say 1/3 of this and 1/3 of half of that. So 1 out of every 3. So I have 1. Every 3 times you have 3 blocks. I have 1 out of every 3. 1 out of every 3. Okay, now I understand. Okay, so half of 6 is 3, and half of 1/3 is 2. So if I wanted to add them, right, I say, okay, half of 6 added with half of 1/3, so let's complete the 1/3. So this was for half, and 2 out of 6 was for 1/3. Okay, so now these pieces, I can add these pieces and say out of 6, whenever there are 6 pieces, from half I got 3, from 1/3 I got 2, and together I have 5 out of 6 pieces. Whenever I have 6 pieces, 3 of them will come from the half, 2 of them will come from the 1/3, and now I can add them together. This is okay. 5 out of 6. So let's say I wanted to add 1/4 to 1/8. Okay, so 1 out of every 4. So 1 out of every 4. This is what I have. So if I had 4, then it's 1 out of every 4. 1 out of 8 is 1 out of every 8. Okay, so that's 1 out of every 8. This is 1 out of every 4. Now 1 out of every 4 is for 4. 1 out of every 8 is for 8. Can't add the 2. But if I went up to 8, for the thing I have only 4 pieces. What is 1/4 of 8? So 1/4 of 8 is 1 out of every 4. Another 1 out of every 4. Now there is the same kind of quantity. Here I can talk about 2 out of 8. Here I can talk about 1 out of 8. Now I'm okay. I can add. So out of 8 pieces, whenever I have 8 pieces, I will have 2 contributed by this, 1 contributed by this, okay, and so out of the 8, so that means the remaining 5, I don't have. So that becomes 3 out of 8. So as long as my total quantity is the same, then I can add the numbers. So this is one way. So when I have 1 out of 4 and 1 out of 6, now what quantity will have both 1/4 and 1/6, right? So if I look at 8, no, I can't take 1 out of 6, so I cannot compare the parts to add. So I take, let's say, 12. So when I take 12, then I know that is 3 parts of 12. 3 out of 12, 1 out of every 4 will give 3 out of 12, and 1 out of every 6 will give 2 out of 12, which will give me 5 out of 12. So because the fraction always asks the question of what, unless the of what is the same, we cannot add fractions. And that's why we look at some way of getting the denominators to be the same, whether it's cross multiplication, maybe in small numbers or in co-prime numbers, or it is LCM. LCM keeps the number small. If you do cross multiplication method, for example, even in this case, you will get a denominator of 24. So the numbers will become large, and then you have to bring it to its minimum form.